When a founding partner casually mentions retiring in the next 5 years, it's not uncommon for junior partners to start refreshing their resumes and staff to whisper about the firm's future. How can law firm leaders reframe succession planning as an opportunity, not a loss, and diffuse firm-wide panic? Succession planning is a loaded topic, part legacy, part logistics, and often wrapped in fear. But it doesn't have to be. In fact, starting the conversation early and in the right tone can lead to renewed clarity, stability, and even growth. Here's how to do it without setting off alarm bells. First, let's explore why succession planning triggers panic. At its core, succession planning touches plenty of nerves. For many law firm founders, their identity is tightly intertwined with the firm. The idea of stepping away can feel like letting go of their professional persona. For staff and junior lawyers, talk of retirement and succession plans may raise concerns about job security, firm direction, or their own career trajectory. Without a clear communication strategy from the top, even a well-meaning inquiry can spiral into office-wide anxiety. Other common fears include the loss of control or relevance, a fear of being pushed out prematurely, anxiety about leadership gaps, and a lack of clarity around compensation or client ownership in a transition. There's also a generational gap in expectations. Senior lawyers may assume they will pass on leadership when they feel ready, while younger partners may expect a more structured, transparent pathway. Misalignment in these expectations breeds tension. So, let's talk about reframing succession as a strength. The most effective way to diffuse panic is to reframe the conversation. Succession is not about replacement, it's about continuity. It's not the end of the road, it's the beginning of a thoughtful transition that safeguards the firm's legacy. Rather than viewing succession as an emergency plan, position it as part of your long-term strategy. Use positive, empowering language like, "Let's build a plan to ensure your legacy continues," or "This is about protecting what you've built." It's important to remember that succession planning isn't just about identifying a successor. It's about investing in leadership development, client relationship continuity, and institutional knowledge transfer. When framed this way, succession becomes an opportunity for renewal, mentoring, and firm resilience. Firms that view succession as a leadership development initiative often find themselves more stable and attractive to clients and talent. This strategy sends a message of long-term viability and thoughtful governance. Here are 5 ways to open the conversation about succession without alarming people. First, make it routine. Embed succession planning conversations into your firm's annual strategy sessions. When treated as a standard leadership practice, it loses its sting and gains legitimacy. Include it as a standing agenda item, just like financials or marketing plans. It also removes the stigma of making the conversation personal. Now the conversation is part of our standard operating discussions, and it focuses on the plan and path towards succession rather than the next retiring partner. Second, start with what if. Use hypothetical scenarios to spark curiosity. What if the managing partner took a sabbatical? What if a key rainmaker left tomorrow? This helps normalize planning for the unexpected and can identify operational gaps that succession planning will eventually solve. Third, use outside trends as a doorway. Discuss demographic shifts in the profession, ABA guidance, or client succession expectations. Framing the issue within broader industry trends removes personal defensiveness and makes the discussion feel timely and proactive rather than reactive. Fourth, talk legacy, not exits. During succession planning conversations with senior partners, focus on values, mentorship, and long-term vision. Ask, what do you want the firm to look like in 5 years? What values should endure? This shifts the focus from loss to legacy and reinforces the importance of influence rather than control. And fifth, engage small groups first. Start with one-on-one conversations or leadership circles before announcing firm-wide succession planning initiatives. Smaller settings encourage honesty and reduce fear of judgment. These initial conversations also help test the waters and identify internal champions for the broader initiative. Here are a few sample conversation starters you can try. What does the firm look like 5 years from now? And what role do you want to play in that? What's one client relationship you'd like to ensure continues beyond your leadership? If you could design your ideal transition, what would it include? What would a successful mentorship plan look like to you in the next 3 years? Are there internal leaders you'd like to see developed more intentionally? These prompts open the door to rich dialogue and often reveal hopes and concerns not previously voiced. They also create opportunities to co-create solutions rather than impose them. Now, starting the succession planning conversation is critical, but follow-through matters just as much. Consider these next steps. Conduct a leadership gap assessment to evaluate current strengths and needs. Develop a succession timeline with input from key stakeholders. Identify and train potential successors or leadership teams. Outline a client transition plan, especially for rainmakers and founding partners. Create a communication strategy for staff, clients, and the public. Even a simple roadmap or timeline creates clarity and builds trust. Remember, succession planning is a sign of strength. Bringing up succession doesn't signal the end. It shows foresight, leadership, and care for your firm's future. The earlier and more intentionally you start the conversation, the more options and goodwill you'll have along the way. When succession becomes part of your firm's leadership culture, it stops being a taboo subject and becomes a shared commitment. Thoughtfully opening that door is the first step.